Your gut is home to roughly 38 trillion bacteria and other microbes, most of them living in your large intestine. That's roughly the same number as the human cells in your entire body. And they're not just along for the ride. They help break down food you can't digest on your own, produce metabolites your body actually uses, and communicate directly with your immune system, your metabolism, and your nervous system. But here's the important context before we go further. There's no single perfect microbiome. Scientists don't define gut health by one magic ratio or an ideal list of species. What matters is whether the ecosystem is stable, diverse enough to do its job, and not producing dysfunction. When that balance shifts, researchers have a name for it: dysbiosis. So what does that shift actually feel like in the body? The first sign is persistent bloating, gas, or abdominal discomfort. A healthy microbiome ferments fiber in productive ways. But when that balance is disrupted, fermentation can become excessive, producing more gas, more pressure, and that low-grade feeling that your digestion is just off. Bloating alone doesn't confirm dysbiosis, but when it becomes a consistent pattern, it's worth paying close attention to. The second sign is a noticeable change in your bowel habits: looser stools, constipation, or simply more irregularity than usual. The microbiome helps influence stool consistency, how quickly food moves through your intestines, and how water is handled in the colon. When the ecosystem shifts, those patterns tend to shift with it. A big reason those first two signs often show up together comes down to a molecule called butyrate. When healthy gut bacteria ferment fiber, butyrate is one of the key byproducts, and it's the primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon. It helps keep the gut wall intact and supports the local immune environment. When fiber intake drops or the bacteria that produce butyrate decline, the gut lining becomes less effective, and low-grade inflammatory signaling tends to rise. The third sign is harder to pin down, but still worth including: a persistent, vague drop in energy. Fatigue has many possible causes, so this one needs context. But when low energy consistently appears alongside gut symptoms, the microbiome becomes more relevant. Barrier dysfunction and chronic low-grade inflammation are among the pathways researchers study most closely in dysbiosis. The gut is probably not the only explanation for your fatigue, but it can meaningfully be part of it. The fourth sign is something most people don't immediately connect to digestion: brain fog, stress sensitivity, or a dip in mood that seems to arrive alongside your gut symptoms. The gut and brain are in constant two-way communication through the vagus nerve, immune signals, hormones, and microbial metabolites. You've probably heard that most of your body's serotonin is made in the gut. That's true, but it doesn't mean your gut is directly supplying your brain with mood chemicals. The more accurate picture is that the gut influences brain function through what researchers call the gut-brain axis, and microbiome-targeted treatments show modest but real effects in some mood and cognition studies. So mood changes and brain fog can be genuine clues. They just shouldn't be treated as a diagnosis. The fifth sign shifts to your skin. The gut-skin axis is still being mapped, but in adult atopic dermatitis, research has found reproducible differences in gut microbial patterns. Skin issues like eczema flares or persistent inflammatory breakouts don't prove dysbiosis on their own, but the gut is now a scientifically credible part of that conversation. And the sixth sign might be the most concrete of all, because the timing makes it unmistakable. If your digestion changed noticeably after a course of antibiotics, the microbiome isn't a trendy guess. It's the first place researchers would look. Antibiotics can reduce microbial diversity, shift which species dominate, and alter the ecosystem's recovery for weeks or even longer. In healthy adults, some microbiome features may recover within about a month, but in children, reduced diversity after certain antibiotic classes can persist far longer. So, what tends to create these conditions in the first place? The usual suspects are familiar: low fiber intake, low variety of plant foods, highly processed diets, antibiotic use, chronic stress, poor sleep, and physical inactivity. None of these act alone, but together they build the kind of environment where microbial diversity tends to fall and resilience follows. Here's the interesting part. What actually supports recovery? The most consistent answer isn't a supplement. It's a set of lifestyle conditions. The American Gut Project found that people who ate more than 30 different plant foods per week tended to have a more diverse gut microbiome, including a higher presence of bacteria associated with short-chain fatty acid production. Fermented foods also have randomized trial evidence showing increased microbial diversity and lower inflammatory markers, and higher fiber intake supports the functional metabolism of the whole system. Probiotics are worth mentioning, but with an honest caveat. The evidence is mixed and highly strain-specific, and major expert bodies caution that most consumer microbiome tests still have limited clinical utility. Diet quality, plant variety, fiber, sleep, movement, and stress regulation remain the most evidence-supported starting points before you pursue anything more targeted. So if your gut microbiome is struggling, the signals usually don't arrive as one dramatic warning. They show up as patterns, recurring bloating, bowel habits that drift out of rhythm, a brain that feels slow when your gut feels off, skin that keeps reacting, or a digestive system that never fully recovered after antibiotics. Each sign alone tells an incomplete story. Together, they point to something worth taking seriously: the possibility that your microbiome isn't just digesting your food. It may be quietly shaping how you feel every single day.